You twist this rope backwards, and then you can start to see the three modes of vibration inherent in the one mode, the one vibration. And accordingly, this is kind of like the scalar stuff that you're hearing about now, where you have a potential, but you don't have anything evident. You can't see it. You can't measure it, but it's there. You got all this potential. Well, as this energy travels from the sun, intertwined together harmonically, as it is balanced, as we talked before, there is no manifestation of this energy. When you're in balance, when you're in harmony, there is no outer manifestation. You can't sense it, you can't measure it, you can't do anything with it, but it is there. And that's another answer to some of the subtle energy business. Energy is all around us in infinite quantities, but it is harmonically bound together in a triune polar flow. Now, if we take a generator that is composed primarily of a magnet, and we got a bunch of copper wire in them, and you twist the magnetic currents against each other, you're going to split this triune flow apart. And if we're real clever, we'll put two little copper wires down each side, and the electrical current will rush down these wires. But it will only rush down those wires if it can see a place where it can get back together where it came from. So the spark at the end of a wire is not electricity that's been generated. It's electricity that's trying to get back to where it came from. It seeks that place of balance. It will always seek that place of balance. And the spark is the energy going back into a state of balance where it disappears again. So it's not used up. It just gets infolded. It becomes re-emerged where it came from. So if we got this energy streaming from the sun, it is of a given frequency component, frequency range, a waveform. When it strikes a molecule or an atom, which is vibrating, the atom and molecules vibrate at different frequencies. Those frequencies combine with the frequencies of the radiant energy from the sun and demodulates it to a lower frequency range to where we can see it. It splits it apart. That is called refraction. That's why you can't see light. You can see me and I can see you, but you can't see anything between us. You can't see light. So that's the undifferentiated light of the ancients. That's the undifferentiated whole white light. When it strikes a molecule or an atom, it refracts, splits it into various subtle ranges of frequencies, and we get the rainbow. And that explains how all that stuff happens. So we've got this current coming from the sun. Keely said it was magnetic, electrical, and gravity, or gravitic, as he called it. And this, I got a chart here. These rays from the sun are called actinic rays. It's an ancient term. It was used quite predominantly in the 1800s because these guys were all investigating the whys and wherefores. A funny thing about spheres, spheres will focalize impacting energy to their centers. People will do the same thing. If we think of people as centralized vibrating forces, we tend to absorb things that impact to us, whether it's a sound or somebody speaking or whatever. We tend to bring it to ourselves. We'll take that into ourselves eternally, like a piece of knowledge, like I'm conveying to you, and then you chew it up or whatever, and then you'll re-radiate it back out to somebody else. You'll tell them about different things that you learned. So the sun and the planets all do the same thing, only they do it just a little bit different. So the energy radiating from the sun, first it picks it up from the grand central sun of the universe, and then it'll contract it to itself, focalize it to its center, and then re-radiate it back out to the Earth, and then the Earth will do that again, and each molecule on the Earth does the same thing. Now there is a law in philosophical physics, the natural philosophy of the 1800s, to which Keely said was the one fundamental law in the universe, to which all other laws are subservient. And it's called the law of assimilation, the cosmical law of assimilation. And that's what you're seeing in operation here. The contracting inward, the focalizing, the bringing inward, and then the re-radiating back out. Everything else is subservient to that phenomenon. So we have centers, infinitely tiny centers, which aren't really there materially speaking, but it is about these centers which coalesce or form or aggregate these other forces and become an integral unit of itself. So that's where each one of us humans are too. This neutral center of us is our soul, evidenced through the solar plexus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In the martial arts, they teach us that's where the center is, and we try and centralize our forces, our attention, our will, and become very quiet and very still. The natural attributes of that neutral center is that, quietness. So the center volume of any given sphere or entity is 1/3 of the volume of that sphere is a neutral zone. On the outer side, we got the peripheral forces, as we spoke before. The male forces, the radiating forces, tend to seek the outside peripheral of it, and the female forces towards the centers. Without the neutral center in there, male and female forces, the positive and negative forces, cannot associate properly. I'll give you a perfect example analogy in human activity, and I really like this analogy. It's really kind of neat. We've all seen couples ice skating, especially in the Olympics. It's a very, very beautiful sight. Here's a male and female, man and woman, doing an extraordinarily beautiful, harmonious thing. So we've got the male and female acting in concert to create a concordant, harmonious spectacle. The neutral is etheric. The neutral is their ideal. What is it they are trying to attain? If they have the same ideal, the same etheric, neutral governing principle, then you've got this concordance, this harmony of motion and activity. It's when that ideal is lost that you got some of the problems we see today. They don't have a common ideal. So the neutral is both positive and negative. It can be either. It can become predominantly positive, predominantly male, or vice versa, female. So the neutral can become both. And yet it is one of the greatest enigmas of this Keely stuff. What exactly is this neutral thing? So we've got the energy coming in from the sun, attracted towards the center of the earth, going into this neutral zone and being converted. It's like platinum does in the chemical industry. Platinum converts elements from one to another, and yet it itself remains the same, unchanged. This is starting to sound like the old Philosopher's Stone of the ancient times. So the platinum embodies the neutral forces, the neutral force, or the neutral condition, I think we'd rather say. And in the old books, like Genesis, for instance, if we look at Genesis from a vibratory standpoint, it becomes like a tech manual. It says how the etheric, the infinite energy levels, the void, remember how we talked about all the energy was in the void, there was God, that was everything, is held latent in that void. And how that became demodulated lower and lower and lower frequencies by stages, as it would be in music, to become male and female forces, and then the neutral force, which would be God in the center of Adam and Eve. And it's kind of neat when you start looking at some of this ancient literature from these fundamental universal principles. Those guys knew what they were talking about. But if you transport yourself back 2,000 years ago, there was no English word for vibration. There was no English word for electricity or any of these things. So they had to convey it to us in allegorical form or metaphors or whatever to get the essence or the insight to what they were trying to tell us. And the Masons had it, and the Rosicrucians had it, and the Indians, Vedas, and all those people had all this stuff. And all we're doing is rediscovering something that's been there all this time. Are there any questions? Somebody had a question about water.
Yeah, I was reading some Keely material, and it mentioned an interesting experiment where you take